I don't really remember my great-grandmother that much. In fact, the only thing I can remember about her is her rocking chair. She was always sitting in this rocking chair, and everybody in the family always remembered her sitting in this rocking chair, which was her favorite chair. And that was like her favorite pastime. And so when my great-grandmother passed, my grandmother took the chair and brought it to her house and put it in her guest room. Now, when I was younger, about 9 or 10, we made a trip out to where my grandmother lived in Arizona. And I was playing with my cousins in this guest room where the chair sat. And now this chair was over in the corner. It was this old antique wooden chair, very good craftsmanship. And, you know, you could tell that it had been aged and it didn't look very sturdy. Now, my grandmother had a rule. No one touched the rocking chair. No one sat on it. No one went near it. You left the rocking chair alone. That was her big rule about being in that room. You did not touch the rocking chair. Well, one day I'm in the guest room with my cousins and we're playing around. I wanted to be the brave one and show off. And I told my cousins, look, I'm sitting in Grandma's chair, you know, I'm going to get in trouble. And thankfully, I didn't get caught. I didn't get in trouble. And I thought that was the end of it. You know, I thought that was that. And I wasn't going to get in trouble or anything. So that night, we went to bed. And my sister and I, we slept in the guest room. Now, the guest room had a bed that pulled down from the wall. And so we pulled the bed down, we made the bed, and we got in the bed. Went to sleep, no problem. But in the middle of the night, I woke up and I was just really, really cold. And I couldn't figure out why. I had the blanket over me and I still felt very, very cold. And I turned my head like this to where the chair would be stationed over in the corner. And there was an old woman sitting in the chair. And she wasn't transparent, didn't look like your classic example of a ghost. It looked like a real person that was sitting in the rocking chair. And not only was she sitting in the rocking chair, she was rocking back and forth. And I kind of stood there in shock. I couldn't imagine why she was there or what she was doing in our room. And all of a sudden she turns her head and gives me this sort of glaring, stern look, like she was upset with me. And I just remember like that look. It was just very kind of like you did something wrong and you know it. And she had this, you know, dress on. She had the knee-high stockings and she looked very physical. And that's why it was odd, because at that time I knew I'd heard stories of ghosts. And usually there were these transparent things, but this was like a solid person, like that person was legitimately there sitting in the chair. So she's in the chair and she's rocking, and then she looks at me. All of a sudden, her rocking gets a little stronger, a little faster, and this continues to get stronger and faster. And by this time, she's rocking so hard that the chair is almost hitting the wall. And that sort of freaked me out. I turn over and I wake up my sister and I'm like, hey, there's someone in the room with us in the rocking chair. And my sister gets up right away and she looks over there and there's no one in the chair. It's completely empty. But she did seem a little uneasy because she could see that the rocking chair was actually still moving, as if someone had gotten out of the rocking chair. And she said, you go back to bed. You're just dreaming. Leave me alone. So I did. I went back to sleep and I was able to sleep that night. But first thing in the morning, I ran into my grandmother's room and I said, Grandma, there was a woman sitting in that rocking chair last night. And I told her about how I had got in the rocking chair and was playing around in it. And then I seen this woman in the chair. And my grandma just looked me in the eye and she said, well, next time you won't play in Grandma's rocking chair again, will you? And I think I realized at that moment that that was my grandmother, my great-grandmother, who came back and was upset because I had been in her rocking chair. And that rocking chair still sits there to this day. And later on in life, I met with some of my family, and we actually talked about, and they had thought that they had seen my great-grandmother in that chair. And we talked about how we all had sort of an experience with that rocking chair, which was very interesting. But it's still there to this day, sits over in the corner. I don't sit in it, I don't go near it, you know. I learned my lesson. But thank you guys for listening.